thing, of course, that we need to do, I believe, is to do everything possible, short of using force, to weaken the Ahmadinejad Khamenei regime with sanctions, particularly with the possibility of cutoffs of imported refined petroleum products. Iran imports 40% plus of its diesel and gasoline because it hasn't built a refinery since 1979, and the ones that are there don't work all that well. And if you recall, a few years ago, Britain was nearly brought to its knees by a tank truck driver strike that within about a week had brought things almost to a complete standstill in Britain because the filling stations weren't able to pump any gasoline or diesel. So a cutoff of imports into Iran of its refined petroleum products is one potential step open to us, short of the use of force. I would have loved to have seen us for years, and in the Committee on the Present Danger, which I co-chair with former Secretary of State George Shultz, we have been publishing for some time suggestions about other firm steps to take with respect to Iran. The Iranian regime is hugely unpopular among its own young people. It's an empire, just over half being Persian, and certainly it is not popular among the Kurds and the Baluch and the Arabs and the Azeris. But it is a regime that can hold on. We can weaken it by being much more straightforward and forthcoming and effective in our broadcasting to that part of the world. What we have done for years, essentially 55 minutes an hour of Baudelarized Eminem and Britney Spears together with 5 minutes of anodyne news, is nuts. This country invented Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. Václav Havel and Lech Walesa both say Radio Free Europe was the single most important thing the United States did in the Cold War. Yet most of our broadcasting, there has been some improvement in one or two places recently, most of our broadcasting to Iran in that part of the world is feckless and has no particularly positive effect. There are a number of things, short of the use of force, that we may be able to do to help substantially weaken that terrible regime. But if that doesn't work, we are not ready yet to move into a world in which we can effectively provide protection for our friends and allies, particularly given the Russian intransigence about the basing ballistic missile defense in Europe. We need some time and some resources to go into not only sea-based defense as well as land-based, but in my view, a space-based defense, and particularly boost phase intercept. We are, however, some distance away from reliably being able to say we have substantial confidence that an Iranian ballistic missile with a nuclear warhead could not reach, fill in the blanks, Israel, Eastern Europe. We have just not pushed hard enough or firmly enough with respect to ballistic missile defense over the course of the last several years. We also need a reliable replacement warhead because the test situation is one that leads some people, responsibly I think, to question the long-term security and capabilities of our nuclear warheads. So we need to be able to spend the resources on improving our offense in the strategic nuclear arena, and especially moving much more decisively than we do now, or have up until now, with defenses. if we can't stand effectively on being able to block any Iranian threatened attack on neighbors, allies, either in the region or in Europe, then I fear the only thing open to us, should Iran get closer than it is now, to being able to deploy a nuclear weapon, I feel the only course open to us is the one that has been characterized by John McCain as being the worst course of action in that part of the world, namely the use of force, the worst course except for one other. And the one that is worse even than the use of force is to let Iran have a nuclear weapon. So this is going to be a difficult, extraordinarily difficult arrangement and strategy for us to deal with over the near term. We're divided politically as a country on many of these issues, and we haven't been moving ahead, as I said, with the technology as much as we should have. But this country has been in difficult circumstances before. We had in the 20th century 5 great empires. One, the Wilhelmine German Empire, authoritarian. The other 4, totalitarian, the Axis powers of World War II and the Soviet Union. 5 great empires that wanted to take us on and wanted essentially to destroy us. All 5 are on the ash heap of history. We're still here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim. We have time for a few questions. One administrative point. If you're going to ask a question, please, there's a microphone in the back, and approach the microphone and identify yourself and your organization. Thank you.
Director Woolsey, Rodney Livingston, SPAN.net television network here in Washington. What can be, or what are your thoughts on addressing the need? You mentioned the thirds, first third, the second third, and then the last. What are your thoughts on eliminating or diluting that need, since all the people that exist are contemporary now in real time? What are your thoughts on
You mean undermining the Hojatiya ideology? Well, crazed ideological groups can control an unwilling population. Revolutionary Guard in Iran now controls a rather substantial share of the Iranian economy, along with the ballistic missile program, the nuclear weapons program, the Al-Quds force, the management of the relationship with Muqtada al-Sadr, with Hamas, with Hezbollah, with Damascus. I think the Persians invented chess, and they're good at it, and I think if you think of Muqtada al-Sadr and Hamas and Hezbollah as pawns, and perhaps Damascus, being the capital of the country, rises to the level of being a rook, Tehran is doing a rather good job of moving these pieces around, protecting their queen, the queen being the most lethal piece, being their nuclear weapons program. And the fact that they are ideologically centered on this crazed set of beliefs, or at least some of the leadership is, should not be taken to mean that they are not shrewd. One can have quite crazed objectives and still be extremely shrewd. I once wrote a paper years ago, it would have been my dissertation,